from WBBZ-TV Sports, it's time to beat the champ. Now, here are your hosts, Paul Peck and Sue Novoitsky.
Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to Beat the Champ. My name is Paul Peck with Hall of Fame bowlers Sue Novoitsky and Sue Jeziorski. We got week number 2 here at Classic Lanes in Kenmore, and week number 1 gave us a little bit of a feel for how all these lefties that we have on the show this month are going to fare, and nobody fared better than Pat Brick, who is our advancing bowler for today.
Right, and a great bowler in his own right, but now we get to see our first right-handers and how the right side of the lane is going to play. So our first bowler, Angela, is basically bowling on what we call fresh, because even though it's the second week, no one's thrown a ball on the right-hand side yet. So we're going to have to analyze that and see how the right side plays. Yeah,
Dave Kirsch and Rocket Rob Piccoli are the other 2 players joining Angela Glaser on the show, challenging Pat Brick. We've seen decisions on equipment be key in week number 1. What do you think about that for this week?
Super important for the righties now because, like Sue said, it's a fresh shot. So this is going to be way more important on their ball choice. If Angela picks the right ball, it's a nice clean shot. She might have a good chance.
All right, going to be another fun week here at Classic Lanes in Kenmore. First match, Pat Brick versus Angela Glaser, so let's get rolling. It is Brick versus Glaser for match number 1, and Angela Glaser, just the 4th female to qualify and compete here on Beat the Champ, which is terrific. And she was obviously the 4th qualifier, so she is bowling great right now, and she'll have quite the challenge in Pat Brick, but we're looking forward to it. So Angela will get us started. From Lockport, New York is Angela Glaser, and here we go, week 2 at Classic Lanes. Big hook on that from the perfectly unbothered right-hand side of lane number 31. Didn't quite get it to hook enough, so she's got a little work to do here.
Well, if you remember when we started out, they came on here, even though there were 2 left-handers, they came from the practice pair and had to kind of feel this pair out because it's definitely going to play different. And I think that's what happened here with Angela. That ball, she was too much in the oil, and she's going to have to figure out here now, just like the left-handers did, where the hang spots are, where the dry is, where the oil is.
So it's a spare to get things started for Angela Glaser, and now Pat Brick making his 14th appearance here on Beat the Champ. And as impressive as 14 appearances are, even more impressive is his overall record of 16 wins against just 7 losses. And he's coming in after having won 2 matches in a row, beating Tony Dolan and Derek Green on last week's show. And he'll go for a spare in his first frame.
Yep, and he's got his best cheerleader here. We've got
yes.
Madison Brick with us, watching her dad bowl like you always do.
You probably know your dad and the way he bowls better than anybody, Maddie. So we're going to rely on you for some deep insight here into how Dad is bowling.
Is he as even keeled at home as he is out here bowling? He's got a pretty even keel
as long as she gets her
demeanor.
Homework done. Is he? He seems pretty calm and pretty mellow. Is Dad like that a lot at home?
Kind of.
Okay. Let's hope you're not giving him any reasons to get upset with you.
Oh.
Yeah, almost got that strike. The 16 wins now for Pat Brick have moved him into 3rd place in a tie for 3rd place. Most wins here on our show since we've into year 4 now. Of course, it's Mike Zarcone with 36, Chuck Jagosinski 1 behind at 35, and Pat now tied with Jeremy Zimmerman at 16. So Pat keeps winning here. He will move up the ranks and start to make Chuck and Mike sweat a little bit, knowing that Pat Brick might be coming up behind him.
That's a pretty strong bowler to come to be sneaking up on you.
Yes, it absolutely is. So 2 spares in the first 2 frames for Pat Brick. So now Angela Glaser, I mentioned from Lockport, employed as a health information management technician at ECMC. And spends a lot of time up in Lockport bowling Alley Brant Lanes, works with Brad Angelo and the whole Bowl U system and form of bowling education that we've talked a lot about on the show, not only with Brad, but with a lot of his students. So
Right.
She has learned a lot about this sport in working with Brad, which is great.
Well, now, yeah, knowledge is key, and that is just one program that really expands on just these simple, just moving on the lane, and it kind of goes a little deeper and tells you how to pick out equipment, how to read what's happening on the lane. And right now, Angela is going to have to see that her ball is not reading the lane at all. Her ball is, it's very tight on the right-hand side, which means there's a lot of oil on the right-hand side. Hasn't been broken down, and she's using a shiny surface ball, which means it's going to go a little bit longer, which she needs the ball to read the lane sooner, which is why she's coming up light every time. So,
well, those are all the things that we talk about so much on this show. The ability to read the lanes, to make the proper adjustments, to know when to shift balls, and again, we've talked about that, particularly with what Pat did in weeks 1, and using one ball on lane 31 and one ball on 32. That's really interesting. So,
well, a lot of experience there, and you got to recognize what's going on before you can do that. And I just saw Angela up there try to move her eyes left to try to make the ball go more right to left to get closer to the pocket. You really want the ball to do the work, so she's going to most likely want to look shorter on the lane if she's going to stay with that ball, try to get it rolling, or switch to a ball that's a little bit more aggressive, because you don't want to get into messing with your swing and trying to pull the ball on the lane, because then it's hard to be accurate that way.
First strike of our match belongs to Pat in frame number 3.
This feels like a good time to take a short break. We'll be right back with more action on Beat the Champ.
Instant replay on Beat the Champ is brought to you by Transit Lanes and Keglers. Join us for bowling, food, and drinks.
Welcome back to Beat the Champ. Let's get back to the action here on WBBZ-TV.
I'm imagining that she has a little bit of nerves going on here,
Sure.
being on TV and bowling against
With
Pat.
with all these Hall of Famers hanging around here like you and Sue at the scoreboard there, it's a little intimidating, right? There's a good strike. That's 2 in a row for Pat. 52 years old from Tonawanda. Driver and tech at Upstate Pharmacy is Pat Brick's full-time occupation. But we know as much like the Zarcones and the Jagozinskis, they're full-time bowlers first, and work just gets in the way, right?
Yeah.
A Hall of
that's
Famer
true.
at nearly every level in Tonawanda, in Buffalo, at the New York State level. Pat Brick is one of the greats here in Western New York.
They're touchy.
Yeah,
There's no way
something's
they're not.
touchy out there, isn't it? So this is a little bit of a tricky, 3-7 split?
Right, it's makeable for sure. It's makeable, but
What do you want to do here?
Just catch it on the outside.
On the
But you
3
got-
on the outside?
Yeah, but you got to, you got to catch it just right, because you can wrap around it too. But one of the more makeable splits.
What
if you have
does
to
this
leave
have a
one.
nickname? Does the 3-7 have a nickname? No.
Not that I'm aware of.
We still have yet to get Sue Navoyski's bowling word of the week. All right. Well, Pat hit it where he needed to on the outside. It just did not bounce where he wanted it to. So that's an opening.
Yeah,
for Pat.
he was a little too head onto it. He needed a little bit more
A little
going
more
away
to the right. Yep.
Yeah, you want the ball hooking away from it so it can just nick it.
All right, so coming off the strike in the 7th frame, Angela slides over to lane 32 in the 8th. This has been the tricky lane so far through the first week of the show, and see if that's going to continue.
I'll tell you, if she can find a way to throw 2 strikes here, she is right back in this. That's a pretty good shot right there.
Just got it a little bit to the right, didn't quite get enough to the left to get that 7 pin out of the way.
Actually, she got that there pretty well. That was just, sometimes those swisher shots, and that seems to be a house characteristic, how much the pins fly around in the back. In this case, I like the chances on these swishers most of the time.
That spare ball of hers is hypnotizing me with the black and white stripes. So spare in the 8th for Angela. Winner of this match takes on Dave Kirsch, who is making his Beat the Champ debut. Rocket Rob Piccoli is our third bowler on the show this week.
We talk about how speed matters and how you compensate for your lack of speed or too much speed, whatever the case might be, with equipment. And you see that Angela's throwing a shiny ball. She throws the ball. She's got slow ball speed, so she wants the ball to be shinier to hold off from hooking for her. And then, but sometimes you give up a little bit of carry when you do that.
Yeah, a little under 15 miles per hour on the ball speed here, which, as we've talked a little bit about through the first week of the show, some of the big throwers are approaching the 20s. Pat's probably consistently in the 17s and 18s, and just misses that one, and that's a very critical miss in the 9th frame for Angela. So that's her third open of the match. Pat's got 2. We've had more opens by great bowlers than I think I've seen in a long time through our first 2 weeks.
Well,
here.
this is definitely not your typical house shot. This isn't like I can miss to the left or miss out and have it come back and miss in and have it hold up. It's a little more challenging than that. And then you're dealing with, of course, the wood condition and the little characteristics that are making the ball do different things. So it's keeping the scores down and keeping them on their toes, that's for sure.
And that's a perfect strike in the 9th frame for Pat Brick.
Yeah, and that's the best Angela can do if she strikes out is 169. And with this, you're looking at, even with good count here, Pat's, once this ball comes off his hand, it's going to make him a win.
Yeah, I mean, your winnings, you mentioned, your winning scores, and they're certainly respectable. 225, 226, 235 have been the winning scores so far. But nobody's pushing 250s or anything like that,
right.
or 260s yet.
Exactly.
And I think has as much to do with the conditions as it does with the bowlers. And that's 2 in a row, and that will clinch the win for Pat Brick. So he's going to get his 3rd victory in a row, and he's going to keep bowling here on Beat the Champ. Pat Brick maybe getting himself into a groove. That makes young Madison Brick happy because you get to hang around here a little longer, right? Yeah, well, you didn't have anything else to do on a Saturday like this, right? So she's going to hang around and watch her dad bowl one more match. And we'll have the preview of that one coming up when we return to Classic Lanes in Kenmore. More Beat the Champ right after this. Well, Angela, congratulations on your debut here on Beat the Champ. Was there a little bit of nerves involved?
It was
yeah,
very
you kind of looked it.
nerve-wracking, and the lanes were actually completely different. I was like 5 boards right over on this side.
Well,
so
you know who to blame. Blame this guy for that. So, so it was a lot thrown at you, wasn't it?
It was a good time though.
Did you have fun?
I definitely had fun.
All right.
And now that you've been out here and you tried it and your nerves are a little jittery and the oil pattern was a little deeper, do you think maybe a little bit of knowledge, a stronger ball, something with a little surface?
Sure.
Okay.
Next time I'll be back. I can't wait.
Right. These are all the things you're kind of learning as you're a little bit newer to this sport, right?
Very new.
Yeah,
Very new. I love it though.
All right, well, what you'll learn about this sport is you always want to hang around the guy who has the cash, right?
Congratulations and nice bowling, and like to see more women come out and support Beat the Champ, but thanks for supporting us.
No problem.
All right, good debut, good way for Angela Glaser. I know we're going to see more of her on the show. We know we're going to see more of Pat Brick. It's Brick versus Kirsch. It is our next match, and it is coming up on Beat the Champ. Match number 2 is Pat Brick looking for 4 in a row, and the opponent making his Beat the Champ debut is Dave Kirsch, 52 years old, from North Collins, New York. So again, 2nd match in a row where the veteran Pat Brick takes on someone on for the first time. So we'll see how Dave handles the bright lights of Beat the Champ.
Well, he bowls a lot. He's got some experience behind him.
Which, by the way, I feel the need to mention because this has come up on a number of occasions, and while we do have lights set up here for the TV taping, they don't give off any heat. They're LED lights, so I know there's been some perception that it changes the lane conditions because of the heat from the lights, and that is not true. So there's one less excuse for all you bowlers to use when things don't go your way. So
yep, now it's out in the open.
right. Spare in the first frame for Dave Kirsch. Hey, we want to recognize for a brief moment here one of Beat the Champ's #1 fans. Anthony is here. Anthony, you are a regular in the crowd at almost every one of your shows. He was torn to pieces because he couldn't be at Manor 2 Lanes last month, so he's got to start a new streak. Anthony, what is it that you have become fan #1 here?
Well, well, I
Sue,
started.
right? You just like hanging out with Sue.
Yeah, one thing you'll know about me is that I started coming here back in 2017 when Pat Madigan and Ken Michaels bowled together. And ever since then, I asked Mr. Pat or my parents if they could take me to the taping. And each time...
That's all right, you're doing all right.
And each time I do, they say they would. But mostly it would be my father, because when Mr. Pat doesn't take me to the tapings, he normally bowls on Saturday for junior leagues.
All right, well, so good. So Pat Madigan, who's fan #2 here on Beat the Champ, is the guy that gets you here. Anthony, keep doing what you're doing. Keep being a fan of this show. We love having you here. You bring a lot of spirit and energy to us. So thanks for being a part of the show.
You're welcome. And another thing you might know about me is that I don't know if I should bring this up or not, but I made one brief cameo appearance on bragging rights with the Shriners back in February.
That'll make John DeShula very happy to hear. That's our rival show here on WBBZ. So what's your favorite show? Which show do you like better, though?
Well, I actually like the Shriners.
You know what you better say, Anthony.
I know, but my favorite one would have to be the one with the Shriners because one of the clowns is actually one of my friends that I've known for the past 14 years.
I'm thinking of kicking you out here after that answer. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll let him hang around here. So, Anthony, thanks for being on here. So we're going to get back to the bowlers here because Pat Brick has struck in his first 2 frames, and Dave Kirsch is looking for spare 2, and he has got it. So we're off to a good start here, and as long as we can keep our crowd under control here, Anthony and the rest of the crowd under control here. There's Sue Jeziorski in for Janelle Sabin on the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard, doing a great job. All right, so what do you learn a little bit about Dave here so far?
Well, I think what's happened to Dave is what's happened to every bowler
Other than
that's
another
come
one
out
of those darn
lefties. But they've come up here and have to realize for themselves that the left lane is hooking more than the right lane, and you're not going to know that. So you get up there and you throw balls, and it's going to throw you off. We've seen it every single time where it throws them off the first 3 or 4 frames trying to figure that out.
It's not the first time that we've had 2 lanes reacting much differently, but it may be the first time where a lot of the bowlers, including Pat, have decided it's so different that they need to use a different ball on one lane versus the other.
Well, I think, like Sue said, it happens more than you think, and definitely on the wood surfaces, which we do see a lot of here at Beat the Champ. It's a little bit more common.
A little more traditional for the era that the bowling centers in Western New York were built, right?
Well, yeah. When you're trying to figure out the lane conditions, you're also, the lane bed is actually one of the things that you're analyzing, and in a wood surface, you've got to analyze the front, the middle, and the back, because the front of the lane being the head of the lane, which is with the set down point, play a bigger role on wood surfaces than on synthetic surfaces. So I think that's what you're seeing as much transition, because you're really dealing with breaking the lane into 3 different parts.
So you have to be like part engineer to be a good bowler, huh?
Well, you get used to it.
Dave is an electrical engineer. I'm not sure if that'll help him or not in these situations.
That's where ball speed and direction play a big part, because if the people that play up the lanes and have good ball speed kind of negate the front of the lane. It's not as big of an issue. People like Angela, who have a slower ball speed or set it down short, now all of a sudden the heads are something you really have to factor into your decision process.
Yeah, just couldn't get enough of a flying pin over there to take out that 6-pin for Pat. So it's 3 strikes and now a spare opportunity in the 4th frame for Pat Brick. Now 17 wins versus only 7 losses here on Beat the Champ, and that has moved him into a spot all of his own. Number 3 in wins behind Zarcone and Jagodzinski, and that is, so he passes, at least temporarily, Jeremy Zimmerman, and the connection for Jeremy Zimmerman was the 16 wins as he won 9 of those here at Classic Lanes 2 summers ago as part of the incredible 16 wins in a row streak.
Yeah, I remember that. It was like everything
or 14,
went his way.
I want to make sure I get it right. 14 wins in a row.
Everything went his way. I remember that telecast we were talking about it, you know, when he needed a pin to trip, it tripped. When he needed his opponent not to strike, they didn't strike. It was just one of those things.
Dave Kirsch is an electrical engineering manager at Astronics. We mentioned he's from North Collins, 52 years old, has been bowling for 30 of those 52 years, cumulative average of 224 bowls at this year at Transit and Airport Lanes. 2019 City Tournament First Place Team Handicap, 2019 New York State Open Championship First Place Doubles Handicap. So he's bowled at a high level and won at a high level.
No, he's got a nice game. He's real, he's got good ball speed. He's very firm through the front of the lane. This looks like a good time to take a break. We'll be back with more Beat the Champ right after this. Welcome back to Beat the Champ. You know, gives you a little bit of a sense of relaxation when you see that your opponent's fishing. I mean, it's just one of those.
You brought that up in the last match for Pat. He kind of sensed that Angela was struggling, and that, and maybe it brought his game down a little bit. But you know, again, all you need to do is win by 1 pin.
Right.
You know, I mean, everybody would love to put the 270s and whatever on the board, but if I mean, you know, Pat won with a 199 in the last match.
Yeah, I don't know
156.
how. Nice shot there.
First strike for Dave.
He needed that too. He needed to figure that lane out. I don't know how many guys would actually admit it, but there is a definite mental difference when they're bowling a woman. It always has been. And, you know, hopefully as we've evolved, you know, maybe it still exists, maybe it doesn't. But I can tell you that as a female bowler, guys never like to lose to the women. And I don't know if there was a little, you know, busting on them behind the scenes or whatever the case might be. It's always different to watch guys and girls compete against one another.
How often does that happen in throughout your career in mixed leagues, obviously, or where that would occur, correct?
Yeah, and a lot of tournaments, just like today with Angela. I mean, there was many, when we were growing up, there was all kinds of tournaments, weekend tournaments for us to bowl. There still are, but you know, I don't know if the girls tend to travel as much as the guys did. We had a lot of local stuff. We had the Frank Casios, we had the APT that came from Rochester. They were all weekends handicap tournaments. And so we bowled against each other all the time, and there was a definite advantage most of the time to bowling a man, I'm not gonna lie.
Well, and I think to some degree that's what makes some of the achievements of your friend Liz Johnson so amazing, in that she can compete and win and be toe-to-toe on the men's professional bowling PBA tour, which she has done numerous times through her career.
And when she's a great bowler, and she was actually, and it would be interesting to talk to Sue about it, she definitely was a little slower to learn equipment. She knows her equipment now. Obviously she's a Hall of Famer on every level, but you know, in the beginning, Sue was a big help to her as far as equipment goes, you know, Sue being a ball driller and everything. But Liz's demeanor is probably the best demeanor in the game. And it's the one thing that I would say that first and foremost that I took from Liz is never let them know how you're feeling. You know what I mean? It's like you have an even keel. I don't want anybody down in the house to know whether I'm struggling or not struggling. I want it to look the same all the time. And one of her best attributes.
That was an open in the 8th frame for Pat Brick. He's had an open in each of the last 3 matches. He's won 2 of them, and looks like he's going to win this one as well too. But maybe that's a little bit of that letdown
well,
we
he's
talked
figuring it
about.
out now.
Yeah, that's 2 in a row for Dave Kirsch.
Here's what an open does versus someone who's starting to string strikes. If Dave doubles, he is up by 3. When it looked like this match was in hand.
Well, that's kind of why I said what I said, because it really appeared as though it was in hand. I mean, it's not that Pat's bowled pretty well up until that 8th frame. Got another one.
That's a big
3
one.
in a row.
So this match is evened up now, just by that.
Huh. Wow, that came out of nowhere.
It did. I mean, Pat's had a couple bad counts. Those 6 counts really pull down your pin count.
So there you get the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard to give you the details on us being tied as Pat Brick goes to the 9th frame looking for his 4th win in a row. Being pushed unlike he has been.
Great shot.
And that's how you respond.
Yeah, Pat Brick.
Winner of this match takes on Rocket Rob Piccoli to wrap up week number 2 here at Classic Lanes. So Pat now to the 10th frame where he can sort of seal the win, right?
No.
No, not at all.
He cannot shut Dave out. Dave is actually has a 3-pin advantage if they match each other ball for ball in the 10th frame.
All right, well, this really has been an interesting shift in this match.
It was a big turn of events with that open,
open
with the
changed
bad
everything.
count. Wow.
And Pat is struggling a little bit here. Struggling to figure it all out. So, Anthony, you always got to know when the camera's on, Anthony.
I know.
There you go. All right. If you're going to sit at the big seat there, you know, you always got to know when the camera's on. And there's a miss of the spare and an open in the 10th for Pat Brick. And a 197 final score for Pat. So really a little bit of the wheels coming off here, and the final 3 frames has now turned this match all the way around and opened it up for Dave to get a win.
He doesn't even need a spare here. He just needs to, you know, pretty much once this ball is off his hand, this is going to be a win.
Wow.
That was a huge turn of events.
And it's a strike to clinch it. What a comeback for Dave Kirsch. But he's been clean throughout, no open frames, made what he needed to make, and it's a win for Dave Kirsch in his Beat the Champ debut. He'll advance on to take on Rob Piccoli. We'll find out what happened with Pat when we return to Beat the Champ.
Don't go away.
232 to 197, a win for Dave Kirsch over Pat Brick. Pat, I'm even surprised sort of saying it. It looked like you were well in control of that match. What happened?
I was. The first half of the game was pretty good. I made a tough spare, and I was fine. I got to the 8th frame, and I just got a little around the ball a little quick, went through the face, left that split, kind of got in my head a little bit. And then there's just no excuse for missing the 7th pin in the 10th. It didn't turn out to matter, but that's a good example right there for any of you kids watching. He didn't strike until what, the 7th or 8th frame. He made all his spares and he won.
Yep.
Spare shooting is very important.
Our viewers that are watching too, as you're bowling on TV, the lanes are going to transition a little bit. Did you have that happen when this was going on this match?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, there's a few more left-handers in this round than in the past, and the lanes changed a little bit. The right lane was obviously tighter, started to break down just a little bit, and the left lane was okay. I just made a couple of bad shots. But yeah, there was a little more transition than you might normally see on the left-hand side.
Brian?
All right, Pat, great bowling.
Hi, buddy, thank you.
Excellent, thank you.
All right, lesson to be learned here. Make those spares, says Pat
You're
Brick,
right.
right? It would have, it's how Dave Kirsch is still bowling and Pat's standing next to me. It's Kirsch versus Piccoli. It's next on Beat the Champ. It's Dave Kirsch versus Rocket Rob Piccoli for our third match of the day here at Classic Lanes in Kenmore. So Dave coming off the impressive victory over Pat Brick. We'll try to get a little win streak of his own started. He's got that first match, debut match, jitters out of the way. So we expect nothing but strikes here, right?
That's right. That's right. That came out of nowhere. I mean, it looked like, Pat had that perfectly in hand.
But I thought, and that's not the way that Dave would want to have started this match, I thought Pat said it perfectly, and it's something, again, I mentioned that Dave had spared his first 5 frames of that match, but clean, no open frames, made the shots he needed to make, and then all of a sudden when he started to strike, the other guy struggled, and now all of a sudden it's a 40-pin win almost.
Oh, absolutely. Stayed out of trouble, and that was the big key, because in the other games, there was some opens, and he didn't. He just stayed clean until he figured it out.
Well, I was going to say, is he going to stay open here? He sure will. Or is he going to avoid the opens? He sure stays clean in the first one with a big spare pickup in frame number 1. We are joined by the proprietor of Classic Lanes here in Kenmore, our buddy Brian Borowski. That was an interesting match we just came off of, right? I mean, as we've been talking throughout what the lanes have done and what Pat seemed to have a handle on, it came as a surprise.
Well, I mean, Pat said it best, Dave made his spares, kept himself out of trouble, kept him in the match, and when an opening occurred, Dave just jumped on it. Just shows that spares count too, and that just kept him in the match. And
kind of like a veteran move there, That's like someone who's been there that can keep that demeanor and stay calm the whole way, even though it's not looking good.
Sometimes you just have to grind it out. I mean, just like in golf, sometimes you just have to, make your pars and stay out of the bogeys. Right. And same thing with bowling. If you still need to do the little things in order to win.
I wish I could get to the point where I'm just making my pars. We're still working on that. So Rob Piccoli is making his 13th appearance here on Beat the Champ. 10 wins and 11 losses. We saw him last month at Manor 2 Lanes. As a matter of fact, this is the 3rd month in a row that we have had Rob Piccoli on our show. So he really has gotten his game to the point where he is a consistent and good qualifier to be a part of this show.
Absolutely, and you'd think that with that ball speed, he kind of would rise to the top there. We talked a little bit about the differences between, there's the spares again.
Yep.
The differences between the wood surfaces and the synthetic surfaces, where his ball speed will kind of negate that whole head drama you can have on wood. But yet he bowls great at, say, transit, where it's a synthetic surface. So he's learned how to manipulate his ball speed to his advantage, which has made him tough on most conditions.
And Dave didn't like it as soon as it left his hands, and it will leave him with a challenging split to pick up. The 52-year-old from North Collins, Dave Kirsch.
Well, it's funny, we talked about how you want to retain energy in the ball the last time you were on, and it's the perfect example there of the ball not retaining its energy, because it'll hit the pocket, but it won't have anything left in it, and this is what happens, these pocket splits.
Yeah, it's just using all its energy at the beginning. It's a duller surface ball, so it tends to hook a little bit earlier, and if you just get a little fast with it, then it won't be able to finish and carry out the 7-9 like that.
All right, so after being clean through his entire first match, that's Dave Kirsch's first Open, but it matches the Open, as you can see from the Castellone scoreboard, that Rob Piccoli had in the second frame. So maybe these lanes have been biting back all day a little bit, Brian. Maybe they're getting a little more ornery.
Yeah, you would think it was Shark Week or something like that.
That's right. And I don't know what you did over there to 32, but everybody is not loving lane number 32 so far here today.
I think the bank still owns lane 32.
Is that what it is?
I think so.
That's funny.
Still got a couple of lanes left on that mortgage to take care of here at Classic Lanes. He doesn't pay the mortgage by the month, he pays by the lane.
That's right.
Uh-oh.
And he missed it. That's back-to-back opens for Dave. So exactly the opposite of what he was able to do to beat Pat Brick is what is putting him in a hole here.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
we have joked a number of times about the 34-year-old from Kenmore that when he first had him on the show, he was clearly the Rocket. But he, as you pointed out, Sue, adjusted his game and learned a little more of the nuances, and he's a lot less Rocket than he was to begin with. So we need to work on a new nickname,
Wow.
I think.
That was rocket-like.
That was
right
kind
there.
of Rocket, though. You're right.
That was a rocket to the pocket right there.
Yeah, that was 19 miles an hour,
I got one
blowing
for you.
everything up. What?
Frozen rope.
Okay, I like that.
That was
No,
like
Brian's not buying it.
that was more
Frozen
like a
rope.
frozen rope. Did you ever hear that terminology in bowling?
Never.
Come
It's a
on.
football. We talk about it in football.
That was a
lot.
frozen rope right there. Oh, don't people know what I'm talking
you
about?
are. I don't know. You are right on. It is a common football cliche to describe a Josh Allen laser pass. That's the frozen rope.
Really?
I haven't heard it referred to in bowling before. I think that's why you threw Brian off with that one.
I'll bet you Sue heard of it.
I don't think I ever heard of it, and even in football.
You mean of one of the 4 million bowling terminology phrases? Frozen rope is not one of them?
It is not.
It is. It is.
It is not.
It is.
I'm
dialing up
We
Jack-
could spend hours
Jack
arguing about
Jerk
what
right
is.
now.
All
How many
right.
times when you do play-by-play UB, did you use frozen rope?
On occasion with
Yeah, what was the last time?
Well, probably last year with Tyree Jackson at quarterback, because he threw a lot of lasers, so there was a frozen rope or two here and there. I don't really know what a frozen rope is, but I get the reference.
The action will continue on Beat the Champ in just a minute.
Instant replay on Beat the Champ is brought to you by Transit Lanes and Keglers. Join us for bowling, food, and drinks.
Welcome back to Beat the Champ.
So now, if you're Rob, who has had 3 strikes and an open as he gets set for 5, you know, again, is it just try to be clean here and not make any mistakes, and because your opponent is sort of kind of handing this to you a
Just
little
keep
bit?
doing what you're doing.
There's a
You don't have to worry about
There's
it.
a 50-50 chance you could ask him what his strategy is, and he'll say to throw frozen ropes.
There, you see?
You blew the light out.
Again, that's the Banks lane.
That's right.
We'll call the bank
Brian
up on
is
that one.
He's washing his hands of lane number 32 here.
Power outage at the bank.
You know, some smart Alex going to show up here for open bowling and say, well, I don't have to pay. I'm going to go bowl on 32. You don't know him anyway.
I left a deposit at M&T.
It's Northwest.
Well, Brian,
I
you're,
get a plug-in for my bank.
whether you own all the lanes or not, you are using all of them for league play. We're right. We've gotten things started here. Give everybody a sense of what's going on here at Classic Lanes.
Things have been nice trip by Rob. No, things are great. We got a brand new league on Tuesday night. 88 bowlers, so it's going to be. It's just a huge season at both centers. So it's we've been rock and rolling, and between my trips to Dallas, it's been work as usual.
Yeah, well, and Brian's alluding to the fact that he is the national treasurer for the Bowling Proprietors Association of America. You do a lot of trips down there to their headquarters in Texas. What's going on the national level now that you're still basking in the glow of the successful Watkins Glen NASCAR Race Go Bowling sponsorship?
Well, right now we're finishing up our budgets to figure out how we're going to sponsor, things for the upcoming year. So right now it's just budget time. Then after that, our board decides, how to go about with the budgets that we propose, and then we act on them at first of the year. So we have a lot of exciting things that are up and coming, and hopefully the board will accept all of our recommendations, and it's going to be great for the bowling industry.
Well, you on our previous shows, we talked a little bit about the NASCAR sponsorship being important because a lot of racing fans are bowlers and bowling fans, so it made a lot of sense. What are some other things that are, that you can tell us about that are kind of being discussed, or other areas that you see some kind of symmetry there?
Well, we just hired a company that we're going to be doing a lot of digital marketing with. It was a company that did the John Cena and cricket. I don't know if you ever saw that on YouTube. If you haven't, you need to you need to watch that. It's a tearjerker. Every time I watch it, I cry. It is such a John Cena in cricket, and this is a company that we hired to bring emotion, to bowling. It's not so much promoting bowling, but it's pulling the emotions out of the people to hopefully make them want to bowl.
Interesting.
So our board already accepted that expenditure, and we'll be looking at the end of the fourth quarter to start rolling some things out in conjunction with the Macy's Day Parade that we also help.
Oh, that's right. That's the other big.
Right.
You have a float in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. It's a what?
A balloonsicle.
A balloonsicle.
Right. It's bowling pins.
Yet another bowling terminology that I have to learn.
I've never heard that one.
And it's motorized, so the motorized vehicle moves around with the bowling ball and pins. Mm-hmm. So, and then there are 2 rental bowling shoes that lead the balloonsicles down.
Of course there are.
Of course there are.
That sounds cool. I didn't catch it last year.
If you get it, I'm sure it's somewhere on YouTube, but it was real cool. Al Roker was actually involved, and anytime you get an Al Roker with bowling pins and a bowling ball, it just added exposure for bowling.
For sure.
That's awesome. All right, so keep your eyes open beyond for that, and I know potentially another NASCAR sponsorship going into next year for you guys, but we'll keep an eye out for particularly the digital campaign that you'll see from the Go Bowling folks that Brian is a big part of. So, boy, Rocket Rob has got it going here. That's 6 in a row, if my count's right.
Rocket Rob has enough pins to win this match. Dave has a potential of 186 if he strikes out, and Rob's already at that.
So not only has Rob bowled great right now, looking to probably post what's been our highest score here for a winning bowler since we got going here at Classic, but he's taken advantage of a lot of the struggles that Dave has gone through.
Right.
So it looks like Rocket Rob is going to be the guy that's going to advance on to next week's show, where you got some heavy hitters coming his way. Dana Vojtovich, Andy Reddick, Sean Dietz, some really high-level successful bowlers. So it's going to be fun as we continue to head towards week 3 here. What do we got going for our special 4th week show, Brian?
4th show, I always like to showcase the juniors. I always like to give them an opportunity to be on TV. So we had a qualifying alongside with the Beat the Champ regulars. Just want to give kids an opportunity to bowl on TV. When I was a kid, we never really had much of an opportunity, and anytime we get kids on, maybe pique their interest in bowling a little bit more and a little more serious.
Right, and then beyond that, tell everybody a little bit about the youth bowling opportunities that are here at Classic Lanes.
We have between here and Alley Brandt, we have junior bowling starting at 10 a.m. They run throughout the year, so people can sign up at any time. Just come out and join the fun. We have certified coaches. It's a great learning experience, and plus it gives an opportunity to bowl with other people of their age.
That's great. Good stuff. So as you can see on the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard, it's a win, or it's going to be a win here. We know that for Rocket Rob Piccoli. So we'll come back and we'll talk to both Rob and Dave and wrap up this week's show. Get you ready for next week when Sue and I and Sue at the scoreboard return. It's Beat the Champ in Kenmore at Classic Lanes. More right after this. Well, Rob Piccoli's 244 is the highest score we have had yet here for a winner at Classic Lanes. Unfortunately, Dave, you're on the other end of that. You were perfectly clean in winning your first match. The second match got a little messy, didn't it?
Yeah, the second match didn't work so well for me. It wasn't coming out of my hand as nice. I think maybe I was too excited after the big win.
Normally that happens in the first match where people get too ramped up, right? Hey, beating Pat Brick is something to be excited about. So overall, assess this whole first go around here and Beat the Champ.
It was a lot of fun. It took me 3 years to get here, so I hope it doesn't take me another 3 years.
All right. See, look at that. 3 years to just stand next to Brian Barossi.
That's right.
Huh?
Yeah. Great bowling. Thanks for supporting Beat the Champ, and good luck to you.
Thank you.
All right. 3rd month in a row we've had Rob Piccoli on the show, and now he's going to stick around another week.
That's right. So you saw a day where it showed a month where there was a lot of left-handers, but you came in here and you think it worked to your advantage that they kind of beat up that left side?
Yeah, I guess maybe the left side got a little inconsistent and the right side wasn't really touched yet. So believe it or not, I had to slow down just a tad, but just to get the ball to hook up. But
Were the lanes different for you, 31 and 32?
yeah, it was a board more left on the right lane than the left lane.
So a little less dramatic than the other side, but it was a real good job, figuring these out, especially after you really didn't have much to go on as far as watching somebody else bowl.
Right.
Well, it was nice seeing you again, and wish you all the luck in the world next week.
Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
see, the less than rocket Rob Piccoli, the key to a victory and the key to him coming back for next week's show. Sue and I will get you ready for that when we return to wrap up week 2 here at Classic Lanes in Kenmore. More Beat the Champ right after this. Well, I'm not sure to figure out what we can make of this week's show because Pat Brick was coming in bowling great, seemed to have total control of the lanes, and then kind of hits a bump in the road there, loses, and then Dave loses it, and Rob rips everybody with a big score.
Revenge of the righties, right? So we needed that right-hander to come out there and, and it really just is a process of lanes breaking down, which gives us a lot to talk about because it's all equipment, it's all how the lanes translate, and in this case, Rob came around at the right time. So it's going to be about timing in the next match too.
Yes, so having a righty who's bowling well might really be key coming up here.
It's very well because he's not going to have a lot of transition, so he might be able to stay in the same spot for a lot longer than the other guys. And the other thing that we saw is when Pat and Dave were making the transition and changing balls, they changed them on both lanes, and sometimes you want to watch and make sure one lane might change more rapidly than the other. So that's something we need to pay attention to.
All right, we are going to go and practice our frozen ropes because we'll be back quickly for another week of shows where we'll see how long Rocket Rob Piccoli can keep winning with some great opponents, including Andy Reddig and Sean Dietz and Dana Vojtovich. Going to be fun next week. Make sure you're there with us. Beat the Champ at Classic Lanes in Kenmore. We'll see you next week.